Hi, welcome to my channel where we provide an alternative view to the common narrative. Today I would like to talk about something that Jeffrey Sachs has said in a live interview, I believe on the Duran. Or was it Alex Mercouris and Glenn Diesel again? I'm not totally sure. Any case, so yeah, it was between them. He was talking a bit about the economic history, basically what the US has done and so on. And he was talking about Japan and what actually came out of the, it was quite interesting. What actually came out of the discussion is that when the Japanese recovered from the Second World War, they grew the economy significantly, and naturally, we all know that. First, we never heard about China, but what we are saying today about China, we said at one stage about Japan. This is if you're old enough. Yeah, all the cheap Japanese stuff and so on. And later on, the Japanese stuff became much more high-tech, much more developed, and a much better quality. In fact, it became Toyota and so on is one of the highest quality cars you can actually get. But similar to China, America was the main export market for Japanese products, and it's not that simple actually. What actually happened was that I think in the early or in the 70s or early 80s, the US dollar apparently increased in value considerably, and that made American export very expensive, and that inhibited the American economy. And then America went to his partners, Europe, and asked them, I think the British and the Germans and so on, to devalue the currency in order, no, they want to increase their value, their currency, in order to devalue the US dollar. That means it was an artificially devaluing of the American dollar, so that compared to the major currencies like the German mark and the British pound and so on, and they agreed to that. I think that there was an agreement that was reached, and they did to a certain extent. And anyway, Japan was not included in the initial one, but the economy grew incredibly, and therefore the currency became also, compared to the dollar or something like that, the Americans had to ask them as well to influence the exchange rate so that the yen becomes more, to devalue the dollar and the yen to become stronger. Now, because they were the biggest market, what the Japanese effect was that because they had so much export to Japan, from Japan to the US, they were actually artificially increasing their own price of their own products in America, and they were effectively shooting themselves in the foot. But it became a monetary policy of the Japanese government or financial institutions to ensure, to play ball with basically the American Reserve Bank. In any case, so effectively what Jeffrey actually said is that the Japanese damaged their own exchange rate, international exchange rate, in order to benefit the Americans with getting no benefit from it. And that had a huge impact on the local economy. And that is the reason why we had effectively 30 years of stagnation in Japan. Now, he also stated that he recently spoke to some other financial minister about this sort of suicide pact that they created with Americans. And the Japanese guy just laughed at him and didn't talk any further. And basically what was insinuated was that the Japanese were forced into this position by the Americans to damage their own country and their own exchange rate for the benefit of America. Now, to be honest, I don't fully understand the whole process, but that is basically what it comes down to. And then the only conclusion you really can make about this is that the Americans ordered the Chinese to do what they did, and thereby benefiting only the US and to the detriment of the Japanese people. And the only conclusion you can get of that is that Japan was still controlled by the Americans after the Second World War. And effectively, they have no real peace agreement. And if you look at all the bases, the military bases that are in Japan itself, by American bases, then Japan is still occupied by the Americans. And now there is a recent announcement that the American base at Okinawa is going to be expanded, in contrast to the wishes of the Japanese people that are living there, because crime and so on has increased considerably since that base was established there, and most of the crimes are actually committed by the American personnel in that base. But they never have any consequences, because if they are accused of, say, rape and so on, then they are removed from that base and sent back to America. So these guys are never really prosecuted. And naturally, the Japanese are very angry about that. But also, if you look at the constitution of the Japanese, they couldn't become any offensive capability, and their military was basically restricted in size, which made them dependent on the American military based in the sphere. But what threat do they really experience? There was no threat from South Korea, neither from China, neither from Thailand. So I'm not sure against whom they was supposed to defend themselves. And even if there was an attack on Japan itself, I mean, America could always support them from via their navies and so on. So there's no real need for any American bases in Japan. But recently, Japan has now changed its constitution, and now it can increase its military. And again, it's my belief, or my argument, that the Americans have instructed them to do that in preparation for Americans coming antagonistic attitude toward China and containment of China, and Japan should play a big role in that. And now Japan is supposed to buy a lot of weapons from America in order to boost that. Well, there's no amount of weapons that America can supply to Japan to really be able to defend themselves against China, because the numbers just aren't there. And the same is actually with Taiwan and South Korea. So this whole idea of weapon supplies and increasing of military it's absolutely a waste of money in time. There is no conflict. Rather talk peace. And if peace is not there, then call on the world and try to resolve it in that respect. So my opinion is Japan is still under the command of America and has no say in its own internal stuff, except what is allowed by the American government, institution, whatever you want to call it. And then you can go a little bit at South Korea. Now, we also know that South Korea, there was a Korean War, And if you look at South Korea, it's again, the Americans have huge bases in South Korea. In fact, it is so stated that the Korean army is under the command of the American general. So the South Koreans are not even in control of their own army. Which also points to it that Korea is subservient to the American military complex and the American whoever's in power, whoever rules America, whatever. So even a peace agreement in China, in South Korea, is all fictional. It might be on paper and so, but in practice it's not that. When America wanted to install the, not the Patriot system, they have another air defense system. The people of the bigger one that goes for ballistic missiles. I can't now get on the name. I know the name, but I can't get to it now. In any case, so they installed it. Whether the South Koreans wanted it or not, they didn't care. The Americans installed it, and that's it. And with that one, they can actually have a radar system that can go up to into the Chinese mainland. And the Chinese were complaining about that, but Americans didn't care. They do what they want, and South Korea just has to comply. So again, peace agreement is a farce. And now we come to Germany. And we look at Germany. And previously we had, the Cold War, and we had the Berlin Wall, and we had all the American forces stationed in Germany, and tactical nuclear weapons stored in Germany, and the listening post and the radar systems, and the spy networks in Germany located from the Americans and so on. Basically, Germany was the front line during the Cold War against the Soviet Union. And again, you could all accept it because at that stage, the Cold War was going, and you could easily talk away on the necessity for this and so on. And Germany was limited in their military build-up, and never should be the same as in the Second World War and all that stuff. So huge restrictions were placed on the German government in terms of military, and less known on foreign policy as well. And but that was not but obvious. But after the fall of the Berlin Wall and Soviet Union, matters sort of still continued. But we all remember when it became evident that Merkel's telephone was hacked and spied on by the Americans. So the Americans were spying on their friends. Nothing happened out of that. Nothing. They didn't even investigate it, didn't even complain. Now, if we are equals, then you complain. But if you are subservient, you accept what the boss says. And that is precisely what happened there. You could also see that Germany was allowed to do certain things, but not everything. And they were also encouraged with Afghanistan. They had to send troops to that, and they should have, they helped with Libya, but they refused help with Iraq. But they got involved in Libya as well. So again, it's not supposed to be according to the Constitution, but they were allowed to do that because they were ordered to do that. And then actually now, you see when the war started in Ukraine, the gas. Cut off of Russian gas, sanctions against gas. It is totally detrimental to the German country and the German economy. In fact, the PMIs, the Purchasing Managers Index, are way down, I think on 46%, anything below 50. It's bad. It's that they have no view of the future. And this has been going on for 6 months or so. Production levels have lowered at a slower pace, but there are no orders. That means for the next couple of months or so, the orders are a lot lower, and the factories will not work at maximum capacity. So they will basically lose out and make a loss. And why is that? Because of the induced inflation. And why is the inflation there? Because of the money printing enforced by the Americans, because they printed money and they wanted the EU to print money as well. So they constricted the ECB to do what was necessary, and thereby benefiting the American dollar instead of what is the euro as well. So it's all interlinked, and now we also have found out that the same is happening in Italy, the second largest manufacturing country in Europe. And they all both are suffering severely. And so there is going to be a lot of layoffs, companies closing, GDP shrinking, because of these sort of self-defeating suicide policies that were implemented by the European countries, especially Germany, who was supposed to be the breadbasket, not the breadbasket, but the main economic driving force and supplier of funds for the rest of the EU countries. And it is quite not understandable. And and the biggest sign about this whole matter is, if you don't want to believe it, it's free. You can have your own opinion on the matter. But what you should ask yourself is, what about the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage? It has been how many months now? Nearly 12 months? Well, at least 12 months. And what has happened to the investigation? What uproar was there from Germany? What investigation? I mean, if that happened in America or in any other country that was a free-running country and totally sovereign, then they would have made a big hoo-ha and put up a lot of resources and tried to find out who did this, who done it, but nothing. There would have been uproars in the media, there would have been blames, and it would have been a huge event. But what did we have? We only received silence. No results, no media coverage, no big investigation. Yes, there's a story about from Simon Hertz, which I unfortunately don't support. And then there's the view about the yacht, which I don't know. I can't make up my mind. It looks legitimate. I would have done it like that, but who really knows? So unless I go personally there and investigate it, I would never know, and neither would you. And we're never probably going to get any feedback on at the end of the day who has done it. Did the Americans do it or not? But that's not the point. It doesn't matter who did it. It is the fact that there is no reaction from the German government. And that means, again, they are subservient to somebody else. And that subservient person is only the US. And the Germans have requested how many times for the US to remove their troops from Germany, and America just refused to do it. I mean, there is no, they've argued that there is no necessity for the Ramstein airport anymore, or any other base camps in Germany, because there is no Cold War anymore. There is no need for such protection. But do the Americans leave? No. So, again, the peace agreement after the Second World War is a fake document. There is no real peace with America. Yes, peace with Russia, France, and Britain, but not with America. So technically, Germany is still at war with America. But since Germany lost it, America is still the conqueror and is still controlling Germany. Just like America is controlling Japan, just as America is controlling South Korea. And I've made a video about Italy. And Italy is still also an occupied country, which apparently has been admitted by a British consulate member or ambassador, I think. I'm not sure which one, but I know they have different authority. But it was in any case somebody from the from the American embassy that wrote that in a letter to an Italian farmer whose fields were destroyed by American helicopters. And it was admitted you are still an occupied country and therefore you cannot claim any damages. And Alistair Brooks, he sometimes gets on Napoleon Tano's show. He actually saw that letter. And officially, America has about 11 bases in Italy. But I found some resources, which I've discussed in that previous video, that America has more than 100 bases in Italy. So it's all a farce. It's like reality is far away from what we are perceiving as to be reality and what is facts. But the facts are all available. You just have to search. And the funniest thing is that most of the stuff is actually on Wikipedia, which is supposed to be an unreliable research tool, but which is accepted by most of the people who don't care to do further research, which mostly is some of the viewers here. But if you want, you can find it all on Wikipedia, which is your source, not mine, but I use your source to convince you of the real facts. So it was quite interesting to understand what Jeffrey Sachs has said about Japan. And it makes all sense, because I understood that Germany was never at peace. It's still an occupied country. And I know that South Korea was always. But now it became clear that the Japanese are also like that. It's the same like Guantanamo Bay. They still occupy a part of Cuba. They're not supposed to be there. It's not their country. They're still occupying it. It's like America and Syria. What are they doing there? They are stealing the Syrian oil. They are illegally occupying Syrian territory. What are they still doing in Iraq? Why are they not leaving Iraq? What are they going to do there? They are still the conquerors, and they still determine what can be done and what can't be done. So don't be yourself bluffed by or blinded by all these superficial type of views or propaganda or whatever. The truth is far, far away. The reality is far, far away. We just don't know about it. In any case, that's the story for today. I hope you like what you heard. You don't have to agree. If you don't agree, leave a comment then. Please subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friend. And until next time then. Cheers.